when I moved home and I got clean through the process of moving back to West Virginia, because I couldn't find a doctor that would felt okay with me in their waiting room just for my gender presentation. I had to go into withdrawal because my doctor was like, my patients are not comfortable with you in the waiting room, and I'm going to give you, these are your last scripts, you need to find a new doctor. And I could not find a new doctor, and I kind of went into withdrawal without even knowing. And I can't. There's no adequate mental health care where I live in the coal fields. The only free sliding scale, anything that looks like that, it comes from basically churches that want you in the pews like that, and it's not the level of what you or I would think is adequate mental health care for someone that presents like me. I tried when I first moved home in 2014 to find a local regional. I was like, okay, I might have to drive a couple hours, might have to drive to Charleston once a week, I can do that. But it's really impossible. Everyone's willing to take your money. People are incredibly poor here, but is it an adequate resource for me compared to what I've had other times in my life? No, by no means.
30 years old. I go by they, them, and I identify as genderqueer. I don't really try to get healthcare as someone who's genderqueer. I usually just go in and I put F down on my gender to get healthcare, and I let people around me believe what they want to believe so I can go about these transactions as easily as possible. It makes me feel like I'm hiding something. Like I have to pretend to be someone else or hide a large part of my identity just to navigate very normal parts of life. So I just feel undercover in a way that's not fun or like a game. I don't have money to see a therapist or to try out different therapists to see who would be friendly to me or understand the type of issues in my life that I need help with. So it just seems pretty hopeless to go out there and spend money I don't really have to try and find someone who would understand my special life. At the end of the day, where we are in West Virginia, there aren't a lot of options for me, so it doesn't leave a lot of options for me to take care of it except for on my own or with friends. It took a long time. I come from a family that told me I was going to go to hell if you're gay. If you are gay, you're going to go to hell. And that made it really hard to explore my sexuality, let alone my gender. I think my mother would have a panic attack if she thought I was genderqueer, or let alone if she knew or if she sees this. Sorry, Mom. So that's something that I do keep private from folks. It's creeping out into any writing that I do academically, any sort of art events that I do. The language of my gender, of using they, them, is creeping in there. So it's only a matter of time before that thin facade is broken and I have some answering to do at home.
Does anyone in your family know about you being genderqueer?
No one that I'm related to, no. I have a half brother who is also genderqueer, which is very exciting, but I do not have a lot of contact with him, unfortunately.
I moved home. I have you all been helping. I'm disabled, and I have a autoimmune disorder that's linked to environmental issues around here. It's very common in relation to how I grew up next to coal slurry. I led a very, very normal life until it presented in my early 30s. And I presented very textbook case for what I have. But it definitely changed my life. It definitely changed my relationship to my body. It changed my immune system. And all of that, of course, impacted my mental health profoundly, because I'm in a lot of pain, and I'm going to be in a lot of pain, more and more pain, until it kills me. Like, it's just going to get progressively worse and be more painful, and I'll have less mobility and less independence. Like, that's a lot to get your mind and your heart around in your early 30s. I've been living with it for about a decade now, and the response to it when I was living in Brooklyn was a ton of pain medication. That was my personal experience with opioids. And coming from here, I thought I knew what addiction looked like. I thought I knew what opioid addiction looked like. It looked like a pill mill down in the coal fields with a line coming out of it on the 1st and the 15th. But if I can afford a doctor who can afford rent across from the Plaza Hotel in Central Park in Midtown, I'm thinking, this is literally the best healthcare money can buy. And I know what the worst is because I came from it. These people would not get me addicted. I did not understand it was all the same drugs. Like, I didn't even understand I was addicted, because I was like, oh, I need this pain medication. Like, I have this diagnosis. Like, I did not understand what was going on.
We stopped for lunch and met up with Beck. The employees could tell we were from out of town. They asked a lot of questions, but we stayed guarded. We explained we were doing a documentary on healthcare access, but left out important details like the focus is trans and non-binary folks. It was a safety concern. We don't live here, and we also didn't want the folks we're interviewing to be put in danger as well, because after lunch we were headed to Alex's house. Yes, visibility is important, but our safety as a community should come first.
I was at a very young age. I didn't really understand what it meant then, of course. I was probably about 5 or 6. I knew I was different. I would have dreams of, wanting to wake up and be a boy, or, things like that. I didn't really, back when I was younger, we didn't have YouTube or anything like that had examples of trans men or other trans men that were out there. So really my journey didn't get started until later on. I think I was about 16 when I was on the internet, and I had come across my first trans individual, somebody that was like me. So at that point, that's really when I first started thinking about it, like, hey, this might be it. This might be what I was looking for, why I feel the way that I do. So basically I started doing my research from there. I was about 22 whenever I first started seeing a therapist. I had met my first fellow trans man in person, so he kind of, guided me along the way of what I needed to do, and kind of made it feel more real for me, like, people, it's not just an abstract concept of like somebody on the internet, like this is real life. There's somebody there that has gone through the same thing that I have. So he kind of led me through what I needed to do and where I needed to start. So I started seeing a therapist then. For some financial reasons, because I didn't really have good insurance at the time, I had stopped going to therapy. And then about 2 years ago, I went back to the doctor who sent me back to my therapist, and it took a couple months, but in September of 2017, I finally got to start hormones and been on it ever since. It was when I first started going to therapy, I was going to Marshall University. They did a program for the public where you could go and see a therapist. So I did that for a while, and then I haven't had any problems. I actually got lucky enough to the therapist that I went to at Marshall was a student. Well, she graduated between the time of then and the last couple years. So I got lucky enough to find that she was actually covered through my insurance. So it's the same therapist that I see now. I try to attend all the Pride events that I can, and of course during Pride Month. Around here, a lot of the events that they hold are typically on Sundays, and I tend to work Sundays, so I can't really be as involved as I want to. But other than that, there's not a lot of groups around here for trans individuals. There's Facebook groups and stuff like that, and I am a part of those. But you don't see a lot of visible trans people in West Virginia.
Chelsea and I, we were at a restaurant a couple weeks ago in town, one that I grew up going to this place. And this person, this guy was there with his family, 2 small kids, and he would not stop staring at me. But he was with his family and his small kids. I can understand if he's by himself or with a bunch of other like good old boys, but he started talking, like a crowded full restaurant. He started from like over where you are, like talking at me, like just existing in the world. Like that can be pretty common for folks that look like me here, and that makes it really hard. You don't know when you're in danger. Like it's hard to figure out like if someone's posturing or if it's just some, like it's always like how do I need to leave right away? What's going on? So those things are all like it's dangerous work, but it's also dangerous to look like this here.
Honestly, I would like to be more involved, like face to face with people, but it's so spread out here that it's hard to do. But it is affirming to know that I'm not alone, in a rural area. I'm a major nerd, so play a lot of video games, stuff like that. Darts, yes, darts. That is something I recently got into. It's so recent I forgot all about it. But yeah, darts is something that I've recently gotten into. I like it a lot. So.
Does it ease your mind when you play darts?
It does, and especially to get out there and get amongst other people, and it's very comforting for me that some of these people know who I am as far as my transition, and some of them don't, and they all treat me the same. And at the beginning of my transition, that was a big thing for me is how are people going to react, things like that. And I came to find that it was a lot more of me and my anxieties that was the problem and not everyone else. So, but to go out there and play darts with all types of different people and just have that's a sense of community that I have. My family is very supporting. They have issues with remembering the he/him pronouns every now and then, but for the most part, they support me, and they don't question my decisions, things like that, and they try to use the right pronouns and address me appropriately and stuff like that. So, but they're very loving and supporting. What gives me peace? The fact that I can be who I am and be 100% true to myself and just live a normal life. It's all I ever wanted from this transition was to be not become someone else, but be who I really feel that I am, who I am. So I guess that's what gives me peace.